Record. I think I'm recording. Okay. If I'm not recording, how do I know I'm recording? Oh, yeah. Okay. There. It was a really good start to the lesson. You're welcome. Okay. So we're going to start by looking at Crit A. First off, can you go to Google Classroom? Okay. There's a document in there that you need to open. Right. There's a draft IA draft document that has all the templates. There's a template for every section that I've created for you. Follow the template. Okay. It's the required elements for every section of your IA. You must use this Google Doc for your work. Okay. That's one rationale for like, can I sign off that this is legitimately your work? Okay. So if I start seeing like chunk text pasted in, then that's evidence to be like, makes me question, where did that chunk of text come in that was cut and paste onto this Google Doc, right? AI is becoming more prevalent, I know, but I need to be able to click a box that says I will, to my best of my ability, validate that this is the student's own words and own labor. Okay. Does everyone see it? Yeah. So there should be, each of you have an IA draft document. All your work is going in there. Okay. So same thing with you guys. Go open that up. Okay. So let's go through it. Crit A. Okay. Oh, it's frozen. I was like, why is it like not showing up there? Okay, there we go. There we go. I know. There. Now you get live feed of my face in front of the class. You're welcome. Let's make that smaller. My hair is so flat. There. Tiny. Let's put it over there. There. Half my face. Okay. Pretty. The IA, one of the problems or the challenges of the IA is word count limitations. Okay. So in this case, Crit A, it's only 300 words that you have to spend, right, on this particular section. Really short, right? I know Mel's already panicking with the word count limitation. You're happy? Good. Okay. So this is our introductory to Crit A. Okay. This is, sorry, I can't see. This is one of the easier criteria to get 3 marks. It's worth 3 points, Crit A. Okay. So if you're doing the specific things it asks for at a good level, you can get 3 points. Okay. I'm marking all the grade 12s work currently. If you get 2 marks on Crit A, it's really difficult to get a 7. Okay, to be honest with you, because you have to get 22 out of 25, I think it is, 21 or 22 out of 25 to get a 7. And chances are the data presentation and analysis sections are much more challenging, right? So chances are you are not going to get full marks. It's very rare that I can award full marks for those 2 sections, right? So if you're like, okay, I have 3 or 4 marks I could lose and still get a 7 on this particular project, you don't want to lose it here. Does that make sense? Yeah. But because you might be like, hey, I'm going to do my best with data presentation, but I might get a 5 out of 6, not a 6 out of 6, right? Or a 7 out of 8 on analysis, not an 8 out of 8. Okay. So it's still challenging, but it's achievable. Okay. You with me? Basically, do what I say. Put the things in the paper that are needed to be in the paper, and I'm on your team, right? I'm not gonna lie to you, except for Lamba, right? But I want you all to be successful, so I'm trying to help you, and I try to make these documents as helpful as they can be to direct you in the right direction. Okay, this criterion is assessing the focus and the geographic context. Basically, this is the introduction, right, to the field work and the field work question that you're trying to pose. Okay. So key questions that you need to answer in this section are what info is necessary, right? What is your fieldwork question, right? This is where you'll need to actually write it. It should be the very first thing. If you see on the template there, the very first sentence you write is your fieldwork question, okay? That's also on your cover page of your IA. You don't need to make a cover page right now. I can tell you exactly what to put on it later, right? When you're submitting your draft, it'll take you 5 minutes to do the cover page. Okay. How is this linked to the syllabus, right? You can see on the template, it's a direct link that you need to state. And in fact, if you open up your fieldwork books I stated all the links to the syllabus that you could address. Okay, it's there for you. How did we choose? Why did we choose Shum Shui Po? Sorry, it says Wan Chai. I used to do a comparison analysis of Wan Chai and Shum Shui Po based off livability. So I don't think I updated the slide since I did that, but the question remains relevant. Why did we choose Shum Shui Po? Right? What do you need to be able to state some rationale for what makes Shum Shui Po effective area to have chosen, right? What geographic theories or models are we going to refer to in our analysis? Or you should think of it more as like, what geographic models or theories are you using to justify the hypothesis you created? Right? So if you're like, hey, I think pedestrian congestion is going to be centered around the MTR because the MTR is serving as the PLVI, you'll need to explain that, right? Why I think that will happen. So it's showing knowledge of the theories, knowledge of the model in application to my hypothesis being formed. Okay, that might be a bit tricky for some of you. Okay, what might the hypothesis be? So we've already stated that a little bit, although if you wanted, a lot of you were asking whether you could refine it or if you could pivot to a different indicator selection. All of that is still fine. As we move through this writing of the draft, my answer is going to become more solidly, no, don't switch, right? Because you're going to have to repeat the work that you've done previously. Right now, there's nothing to repeat, right? You're just getting started. So if you're like, hey, I don't want to do crime anymore, I want to pivot to pedestrian, great, go ahead, make that choice today. Okay, next week, however, I might say yes, but I might be like reluctant, like you know what that means for yourself, right? That's extra work that you're going to have to put in to get caught up. That comes, I think you guys are with me, right? You understand my point. And we have to add value to maps. You're going to have to do some locational maps today, right? As a component of this. Largely the maps, there's two parts really that hold people back from getting three. One is ineffective mapping, right? Maps that are terrible, maps that are blurry, maps that are too small, maps that don't have the proper components within it, like scale, border, orientation, legend, title, scale, like these kind of elements. That'll stop you from getting a three. The second part is the unclear justification of the hypothesis that's tied to geographic theory. Those two things are really the tricky parts that differentiate twos and threes, right? Twos are pretty easy to get on this one if you're doing everything I've asked you to do, right? Okay, don't worry, we're going to go through each of those components slower, so you should be like, I get what I need to do. Okay, so this is just a bit more information stated in another way from the, I forget where this is from. It's one of the textbooks that's giving some guidance to the Crit A. Okay, so what is your fieldwork question? Right, what is the pattern of urban stress to Shum Shui Po? It's something like that, right? So a lot of you are doing a little bit of different fieldwork questions where perhaps you're being specific to a location. What's the impact of Dragon Center on urban stress patterns? Some people are looking at streets, some people are looking at marketplaces, some people are looking at parks, right? It should be reflected within it, right? And then we can look to the syllabus. Why did we choose Shum Shui Po, right? Well, we already went through this a little bit. One was the grid-like nature of the roads made systematic sampling quite easy. Two is like the length of time the MTR was located there since 1984, 83, 84. Can't remember off the top of my head. It's around there, right? So it has well-established patterns centered around the MTR. Some of it is to do with the culture of the place. Like the socioeconomic standing is very different. So we could see different factors that impact urban stress. You only have limited word count for this part. But can you see how, like, depending on the research question that I want to write, I might have different justifications for why we chose this place, right? So if my research question is patterns of urban stress around the MTR, I'll probably use that in why this place was good. If my pattern is crime, maybe I'm going to lean into like the different socioeconomic or social disparity within that community, right? That might be more connected to crime patterns. Okay, so you're not going to say everything. You only have 300 words. So you have to be a bit selective with what points and arguments you want to make within this section. Okay? Okay. We're creating a map. One of this is going to be locational maps. And this is like, you better get used to doing some mapping, right? Locational maps are one of the key aspects. And I'll show you, I was marking one today that I thought the student did quite well at. So I can show you an example that I was like, oh, good job, right? For what a student created, right? But largely when we're making maps, you're going to be using Google My Map, right? And you have a lot of these maps already made for you, right? Like I have a map with the fieldwork area already delineated. You just need to make a copy of it and manipulate it yourself. And that's it. So here, when we're making maps, we must include bolts. It's just an acronym, right? Does anyone know what BOLT stands for? Scale. Legend, title, scale, right? Border, orientation, legend, title, scale. I'll show you a really quick, easy way to do scale, right? Because that's usually what is a little bit complicated. The rest is pretty straightforward, right? So border is simply put a black line around the picture, right? There's a function on Google that allows me to make a border on the image. Mainly, it just wants to like mark, this is a map that's separate from the text. Because some of your images are going to have like pictures sticking out and things like that. So you just want to pull it together by putting a border around it. Super easy. Orientation, you need to have an arrow. That's the minimum requirement. An arrow pointing north. Okay. Please, when you're writing, use north, east, southwest. So if we're looking at, hey, we did our methodology on the northeast side of the road, don't put the right side. Okay, don't talk like that, right? We're all on the right side. Unless we turned around, then we're on the left side. It doesn't work. Northeast is consistent, right? For the side of the roads. We're using that kind of vocabulary. Legend, you do need to have a legend based off of the key features shown on the map. So in this case, I would have probably the NPR logos. Maybe I would put the shops or things like that. The features that I want, right? The reader to understand. I need to have a legend. Title, generally that's done outside of the map. You might put figure 1, hyphen, map showing location of field work within Shum Shui Po, bracket, in-text citation, bracket. Okay, that would be a very common way to go about this. Right. The title of your maps and graphs, all they are is like, tell me what they are showing, right? To title it, that's basically it. Your title of your map is telling me what the map is supposed to be showing. Okay, and scale. I'll show you how to do that on Google My Maps. It's a bit tricky to make it readable, right? You have to keep that in mind. One thing I don't understand, and every class has always done this, is there's no page limit to your IA, there's a word limit, right? But sometimes they put maps in that are super itty bitty tiny, and I can't read them. So therefore they're not effective. So therefore you get a 2. Okay, but there's no page limit. So why don't you just do a full page map that's well presented, right? And then it's easy to read, and then it's effective, right? So start like that first. I've never actually told a student to make a map smaller. It's always been make it bigger, right? So keep that in mind. There's no word, there's no page count. Okay, border, orientation, legend. Yeah. So on this map, it needs pretty much everything, right? It has a border, doesn't have orientation, doesn't have a legend, doesn't have a title, doesn't have scale. Terrible map. Okay. Other things on how to add value to maps. Where can I put this thingy? What arrow? Oh, there we go. See, I know what I'm doing. I've blocked all memory of using Zoom because I don't like to, I didn't like those years. Therefore, I blocked it. So I don't know how to use it anymore. Okay, tips on how to add value to maps. I'm going to show you some examples here too. You can add pictures to your map. Okay, one common way that students do it, and I'll show you here in a moment, is like if I want to give good context to place, right? Remember, like I am marking this. This is called an IA. The way it works, you guys know this stuff? How IA marking process works? Yeah. So, kind of. Yes and no, right? Yes. There's 36 students. I'll mark all of your papers, okay? I mark them. I send them to the IB. Right? And they go, okay, you have a range of grades from 7 to 5, right? Say that's our lowest grade we get as a cohort, 5. And they go, okay, you need to justify in depth why you gave those grades. Okay, so I take those papers and I annotate them. Here's evidence of this. Here's evidence of that. Here's evidence of this. Here's evidence of this. And try to justify why I gave the score I did. Okay? If they agree with me, all the marks stay the same. If they disagree with me, all the marks change. So if they said, yeah. So if they go, hey, you marked too easy, we need to adjust all your grades -2. Okay? That's what I mark strict. As you can see, it's probably valid, right? Mark strict. So they don't adjust my grades. Okay? What was my point being here? But that's the process anyways, for how it's graded. So yes, it is external, I grade it, but it's externally moderated is what it's called. So at times, people will have no clue about anything in Hong Kong. That's the point I was trying to go. So providing context to the place is really important. You need to write like the person has no clue what you're talking about. Okay, they don't know Sham Shui Po. They don't know what MTR stands for. They don't know Kowloon or Hong Kong Island. They don't know anything. This person lives in Peru, right? The person that's going to externally moderate your paper with no concept of Hong Kong. Assume that. Okay, you'll make you write in a way that's clearer, right? So if you're like, hey, I think the actual culture within Sham Shui Po is important, right? Or I think those marketplaces are really key to understand. I might want to put a map, right? Here's my marketplace, here's Apleo Street, whatever. But this is just a map with some lines. I want to include annotation, a picture here, right, of the marketplace. I want to include like, hey, I want to draw an annotation here to draw clear things on the map. It's the idea of adding value. So if I ever tell you like, hey, your picture, you need to add value. Your map, you need to add value. That basically just means you need to add information from yourself to your image. Okay. I never ever want to see you just to take a picture and throw it on there without adding value. Every image, every visual that you put on, I want you to have that value added component to it. Okay. If it's too much, I'll tell you, but I'd rather tell you it's too much than you didn't do it. Yeah.
Can we do it on paper?
Can you do it on paper and take a photo? Let's stay with this right now, not how to do it. Let's just make sure you know what to do. Okay. If you want to draw of Sham Shui Po, go for it. Outline our field area study set. Okay. Annotated important things. It must be referenced. Everything needs to be referenced. Okay. So if you're taking information from an outside secondary source, reference. If you're using an image, even if it's an image like Jasmine took a picture, I took it out of the Google folder and I'm going to use it, reference. She's the photographer, right? Use it. If it's a photo you took, reference it. You're the photographer. You need an in-text citation. It's so much easier to start your referencing at the beginning than trying to do all your referencing once the whole paper is written at the end. Okay. So in this case, I like to cheat it a bit when I'm doing this stuff where it's like, I'm just going to put a placeholder, bracket, Aiden's photo, bracket. I'll worry about proper formatting of my annotations later once I'm done my editing and I'm happy with my draft. Okay. I got information from a website. I'm just going to put the URL there for now, and I'll do my proper MLA citation formatting later. Okay. But it'll save you a lot of time and it'll be better if you do it throughout. We can combine aerial photos with maps. There's different visuals. Google Maps and Google My Maps gives us aerial photos and different styles of maps that might be more suitable for some images than others. Google Earth is great for this as well, depending on the arguments you're making, because they 3D modeled all of Sham Shui Po, right? And I can tilt it sideways so I can be looking down roads. And I'll show you this element as well. Google Earth, all the information we're putting on Google My Maps, you can transfer to Google Earth. So all of your pinned data shows up on Google Earth with the 3D modeling. Okay, really easy. It's just a couple buttons and it'll translate all that information. Okay, for different ways of analysis. All of this stuff is really cool. So a lot of that will be used for Crit C&D data presentation and analysis, but you might want to play around with it now to see what is out there for you to do. Okay. Don't just copy and paste a map or simply have the same map as everyone else. Don't just Google the map of Hong Kong off the website and put it into your IA. You'll end up with a 1 or 2 on this criteria, and then you'll be setting yourself up for a 4 or 5 on your IA. Okay, you need to get a 3 on this if you hope to get a 7. A 3 does help too to get a 6. There's no reason people shouldn't get a 6 or a 7 on this project if you're doing everything that you need to get done. Okay. Okay. What geographic theories or models, right? So let's take a list. Let's do a quick exercise, right? You guys too, my other class. I want you to just do a quick brainstorm with your neighbors. What are some potential links to specific geographic theories or models that you could be using in your IA, right? It could be used to justify a hypothesis or what have you. Okay, what theories or models to come to mind right away in this process? Okay, I'll give you about 2 minutes to discuss.
Central place theory.
Let's go. Central place theory. It's not. There we got it.
Central place theory.
Is that what you're using?
Yeah, Google Earth updated. I didn't even know that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's still nice. I didn't even update it. It looks like my map, so. Yeah, it looks like my.
You can do it, and you should be able to. Yeah, it's cool, right?
It looks so green.
Yeah, it's like, I saw some of the visuals, I'll pull it up, I wanna finish this, and then I'll pull it up. Some kids were doing like, Venturi effect.
Yeah.
Discussion, 3D modeling, flip it, and then they draw arrows in down the road, showing how the arrow movement goes. That's the data visualization, super slick.
Like.
Just, this is recording stuff.
Portions of this. And then actually do like data simulations
Yeah, it'd be cool.
from the models.
It would be
Like, you treat
neat.
it like
Put
a
the wind-
cross-section, and then you like just. do
Put
data
wind through it to see
simulations.
what the wind patterns would actually do, and how that would impact air pollution patterns or temperature patterns. It's cool. That's next level.
Yeah. You'd have, you'd have really nice data with that.
Yeah, we have better computers than our Macs probably. Okay,
Just steal the ones that you sports on.
what kind of theories or models come to mind? Let's just do a whip around. So like Chloe, what's one? Bid rent? Yeah, that's probably gonna be a big one for people. Bid rent theory. Right, and we could add like PLVI, or chances are it's a secondary land value peak in Shumshe Po, right? Based off our modeling. So it'd be hard to argue that Shumshe Po is the PLVI of Hong Kong. I'd find that pretty difficult, right? But if you're saying, hey, what's the secondary land value peak within Shumshe Po? That makes sense. Or what's the PLVI within this district? That makes sense. Okay? What else? What are the models? Central place theory? Sure.
On a smaller scale.
Yeah, on a smaller scale, you could be like, what's the patterning of these shops within Shumshe Po? How would that impact pedestrian congestion or traffic congestion or whatever it could be? Sure. Core frame, I've seen people do that. Core frame model, this is kind of in connection with these guys. Right, core frame model is that CBD patterns where CBD isn't all uniform. Like there's a central part to the CBD with those kind of land uses. And as they move outwards, it changes to the outskirts of the CBD, so core frame. What else? Yeah. Sure, we can do that, multiple. Especially for this field work that we conducted this time with 2 different MTR stations, right? So maybe we're seeing different elements of that multiple and nuclei impact, right? So if I'm writing my hypothesis, maybe I lean into that a little bit. Or I might see multiple secondary land value peaks within the area that are reminiscent of multiple and nuclei model. Could be. Other thoughts? Urban heat island. Urban heat island, what is that? Could someone define that for me quickly?
Like it's increases of temperature closer to the SLVI.
Increase, no, yeah, it's not. Rural to urban. Remember, I need to see this. So here's my city, my beautiful sketch of my city, right? Here's my countryside.
Yeah.
Here's the happy farmer,
And
yay.
the
Okay. So I need to see the temperature spike and go down in the rural areas. That's the urban heat island effect, right? I need to see change from the outside rural area to the interior urban area. Did we collect information that we could use to argue that's the urban heat island effect?
No.
So don't, don't use this model. It's not effective. Okay, but Andy, the one that you should use instead of urban heat island, which one would you think I'm going to suggest? Microclimates, right? Argue for microclimates. No, but there's many models within it. Right?
Yeah.
It's a concept about like how microclimates are, there's many different factors impacting microclimates all around us all the time, even in this room, right? Like the factors impacting microclimate, the air conditioners blowing at Jasmine more so than Chloe. Therefore, that's a microclimate pattern within this room, right? There's so much there that you can do. Albedo effect, right? Microclimate, albedo. Oh, what's the thing called? No, sky view. I forget, that's not the right term. Right, there was this argument that kids were making last time with like how much of the sky you can see in particular locations would be warmer. If I'm crowded by buildings, there's less sun going down, right? So perhaps it's cooler. I heard otherwise. Albedo, Venturi. Yeah, Venturi effect was a common one for wind patterns, what's impacting that realm. Many different things, but microclimate might be some concepts that you want to lean into. Okay, obviously, this is going to be determined based off the kind of question you're asking, right? If I'm asking questions about pedestrian congestion, I'm probably not going to be talking about albedo effect very much. Okay, but if I'm doing environmental factors and heat, I might be wanting to talk about albedo effect. Okay, good, some ideas. Okay, any discussion of theory should be brief. You could justify your hypothesis with reference to theory. Okay, that's largely what you're going to be working on today, I hope, if your data entry is complete. Okay, so here, this would be a very common image of PLVI and secondary land value peaks. But even if I was using this image, I can't show, I'll do my best. Right, even if I'm using this image in my paper, I want to add value. So maybe it's like, instead of having secondary land value peak, I could have that, and then I could annotate this with MTR. Right? Wherever I might be. I'm going to try to tie it into the argument I'm making. Instead of freeways, maybe I have MTR lines, right? To try to justify how this is connected to my place, okay? For this particular argument. Okay. We're going to practice with maps for a sec, okay? And then I'm going to show you some examples, and then I'm going to hopefully it's a big step. I always find that there's moments where it's like, I can prep you as much as I can, and then you have to make the jump into it anyways, right? And that's kind of a bit like much. You just have to kind of jump in and get going, and then you're going to have a million questions, and that's fine, okay? Except for the class that's watching this video. I'll see you guys next week, 2 weeks. For each of the following 3 images, I want you to identify what is missing. Think about bolts and accuracy, and then identify what is either missing or would make the image better. Okay, so turn to your groups. What is missing for bolts? What can be added to make this image better? There's a border. Orientation, legend, title, scale. Okay. Wait, what's missing? Is there a border? Orientation? No. Legend? No. Title? No. Scale? No. How helpful is this map?
No.
Not effective, right? Not an effective locational map. Like, we can make some assumptions here, but you know what assumptions are? Assume, it's the wrong word. They make an ass of you and me to assume, right? Because I would assume that that little plane is an airport, but maybe that's a crash site. I don't know. I'm making an assumption. Right. I think those little squares are like medium-sized cities, but I'm making an assumption because I don't have a legend, right? So this is a terrible map.
The numbers represent.
The road numbers, but maybe this is how many kangaroos were last spotted there, for all I know.
Yeah.
Who knows? How about this one? This is China's GDP by province connected to countries.
Wait a minute, why does it say Switzerland?
Where? Because that province within China's GDP is comparable to Switzerland.
Which one?
I don't know that province's name.
Which one?
Okay, what's missing? Border?
Yeah.
It's missing, right? But can you see why? It's like, it doesn't tie it into like a uniform image. Because like the legend's kind of floating there. So if this was a page within your report, the legend's just kind of floating off to the side, right? That's what borders do. It just ties that image together to be like, this is connected. This is all related together. Okay, orientation? Nope. Legend?
Yes.
Yep. Effective legend? Yep. Effective legend, I look at values, right? Sometimes one of the mistakes that was common last time was like, I'm doing a map on pedestrian count, and I have like the ranges of information, like 0 to 10 cars, 11 to 20 cars, whatever it might be. But then they forgot the unit of measurement. by putting like cars per minute or whatever that the unit is. But, and then it's easier to do it first rather than go back and fix the mistakes. Do you know what I mean? So make sure you have that unit of measurement. Title, yeah. Scale, no. So not that great. How about this one? Okay, border, yep. Orientation, yep. One comment, orientation arrows should be on the map themselves, not next to the map. Okay, so that little arrow with the end should be actually on the mapped image, just at the top. It doesn't matter where, as long as it's apparent. Okay, I don't know why, that's just what they do. So that's not great. Orientation, legend,
Yeah.
yep. Title, yep. Scale,
Yeah.
yeah. One thing that I don't like is like what they're trying to do here is this is a smaller scale drawing of this.
We don't know what that is.
Exactly, but we don't know where this is on here, right? So a very simple way, I'm gonna make an assumption here.
It's like you draw like,
Bellingham.
like 2 lines in a square or something.
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure it out. Bellingham is the state, so it's back here. So its chances are it is right here. Right. I grew up here, so I kind of know. Right, so say like this is that map. Okay, so like to show that, I could have simply drawn something like this to show that this is zooming in on that location on the larger scale map. Does that make sense? So I'm connecting the same images. This becomes so much more useful, right? Even to make it more useful, I could add a simple annotation to make it easier for the reader to understand, okay? One of the rules of IA is you do the work, not the reader, okay? So if ever I'm reading your IA drafts or giving you feedback, if I find that I'm the one trying to figure something out, I'm going to tell you, be like, I don't understand what you mean. This isn't clear. You need to clarify your thinking for me. So I'm just reading and receiving information, not figuring things out, okay? So annotations, super helpful, right? Because you can clarify your meaning a lot through simple annotations, right? Yeah.
Are the moderators geographers?
Are the moderators?
Do they teach?
Yes. Yeah, all the moderators teach geo. They do the IAs, they know what they're doing, where they're trained to market, things like that, right? So as am I, but my grades generally are pretty good. We don't generally get moderated at all, but I'll warn you, like I'm strict because I know that if I'm like, oh, Natalie's almost there, it's quite kind of, it's ish. If I squint, it's a 3. I squint, it's a 3. I'll give her a 2. Because I know if I'm generous to Natalie, I could be impacting 30 something else other kids. So do you guys agree with that? If I mark strict based off the rubric, then everyone's safe. But I'll also tell you exactly how to get to the top part of the rubric. Okay? I want you to be successful, but I don't want you guys to get moderated down. It might happen, right? That's part of the game we're playing, but I'm going to do my best to make sure it doesn't. Okay? Okay. All right. I want to show you a couple other things before I show that slide, right? A couple things. There's some examples from other IAs here to look at kind of what they're doing. The rubric is here. Let's look at this quickly. I'm only going to look at 3. I start with 3 in mind. Like when I'm marking, I always start with the 3 in mind, and then I'm hoping I find evidence to support these points, right? That's kind of it. So I need to see a link between the fieldwork question, the relevant syllabus topic. If you look at your template, there's a subheading there that says link to syllabus. Put it here, right? So it should be like a little checky box that I'm doing. On your template, all those subheadings, keep them and use them, okay? Keep the subheadings there. You want to make the marking of this idiot-proof, right? Be like, hey, I need to show evidence of a link to the syllabus. I have a topic that says link to syllabus with the link right there. Do you know what I mean? So it becomes very clear. Use them. The syllabus or geographic theory is described, so the explanation can be somewhat brief. We don't need to get into in-depth. The link made to geographic theory allows for the possible correlation of hypothesis and predictions. Your last section here is justifying your hypothesis through a theory. Okay, that's where you're collecting that. That's where it needs to be done well. It needs to be clear. How did you get to your hypothesis through a geographic theory? Right? I can help you with that. I can read it for you and then be like, hey, this makes sense, or this isn't clear yet, or I can give you some feedback as we go. Fieldwork question is geographically focused, clearly identifying a precise location. You must mention like Dragon Center, Sham Shui Po, or at least Sham Shui Po, Hong Kong within the research question. Simply not having a clear location will limit you to a 2 on this criteria. Okay? One or more locational maps are presented and following mapping conventions. Okay? Have to do that. Lastly, I want to show you, this is feedback I got from examiners, and this is from our students. Okay? The general ones up here, this is all from the examiners from the IB and what the feedback they give. We got a lot of 2s, and you can see why here, right? So if we're looking, research question is fine, clearly states hypothesis, although at times the logic is unclear. Okay? So the hypothesis doesn't make sense with the justification. Could have been tied to theory models more clearly. This can be a problem with a research question. However, it is clear what question is being explored through a hypothesis. Clear mention of bid rent will be used, although the explanation is somewhat flawed. Research question is suitable. Minor issues with the map. No legend for top map on figure 1. Okay, so there's some minor issues with maps. They still got a 2. So I'm saying 2s are really achievable, but no one should be going for a 2 for this. You want a 3 if you want to set yourself up well to get a 6 or a 7. Okay, it does really help. This kid who got a 3, student describes a clear link of the research question. The research question is effective and clearly states the location. Several locational maps are present. There's no issues here at all. That's where I want you to be. Can't you see how it becomes a little bit ticky boxy? Yep. Good. 3. Right? Which makes your job easy. You know what to do. It's just hard to do it. That's kind of it. Let me see. One other thing I want to show you. This is the template. Right? Every other criteria has a template that I made. And I made it because I was getting really frustrated with kids not putting all the key components in clearly. Okay? So this is my attempt to give you that more like, follow this formatting and you will have everything you need. Then it's up to you to make what you need good. But at least do what you need there. So you should get at least a 2. Do you know what I mean? So please use it. Don't erase it. Erase these parts, simply state the fieldwork question. Once you simply stated it, erase that part. Right? But you don't lose the headers. No? Just scratching your head? Itchy head. Let me show you one other thing. What?
Essay is gonna be written in
Okay, let me see. Okay, this is from an IA I was marking this morning, right, as a locational map. So this is really simple. This is just Google My Maps. They pegged Hong Kong. They have the legend. They annotated it to make it clear for the reader exactly what they're showing. They have the scale down there, title. This is fine. This is at a large scale though. This would be like, here's where Hong Kong is. And then they need to zoom in to like tell me where Sham Shui Po is. Okay, so this would be their attempt of that. So they have a zoomed in map showing the location of Sham Shui Po. And then they have a map showing their fieldwork location with a good legend and some annotations for clarity. This would be an effective locational map. Does that make sense? Right? There's other ways to do it, but I saw this one today and I was like, okay, that one was done well. Okay, I'll share that with you as an example, right? They don't need to do it this way. This student could have said like, oh, I don't want a zoomed in part. I'm going to make this into a separate figure. Totally fine. Could have done that as well. Okay, they decided to make that zoomed in kind. They did pretty good, right? The images are clear. Watch the image quality too. That can be frustrating. If your image quality is blurry and I can't read it, it's a 2. Okay, I have no choice because I'll even ask you because my vision's going. I'm old, so I'll be like, can you read this? I'll be like, no. Like, then how is it good if I can't read it? Right. So it's sometimes it's really simple things. Excuse me. Almost there. Let me show. There was one other one I wanted to show. This is data presentation. This kind of stuff, the annotated photos. This student was arguing about gentrification, but it's really easy to make. Some of this, I think this is the 3D modeling thing I was seeing the other day. Where's the other one that I saw that it was like, that was good? Hold on. I'm trying to find examples for you guys. Oh, where was it? They did a locational map, but they had pictures in. That's the mapping mean, that's from Aiden. Okay, I'll find it in a minute. But it's the way that they tied in pictures to the map to give a better sense of context. I mustn't have taken a picture of it, or I just can't find it right now quickly. I'll find that for you in a second. Okay, so for the rest of the lesson, and this would be, I think, the same for the class watching the very interesting video of me walking around and not paying attention to the camera, is you have two things to do today. Okay, one, finish your data upload, right? But you might be like, hey, I want to get started with Crit A. There's a half hour left in class. You can make a choice. You can be like, hey, I want to start with Crit A just to get that sense of it while I'm sitting here with you, so you can ask me questions for clarification. Or you could be like, hey, I got it. I know we don't have class together for like almost 2 weeks. There's some time for you to apply your information there. So you can make a choice. Data, upload, work on your Crit A. Both of those things needs to be done next time we meet, right? Which will be Crit A. My expectation is you have a draft version of Crit A complete by the Monday after, like you have all next week and then the Monday after that, whatever the date that is. I'm going to put it on as like an internal deadline. Crit A should be draft finished by then. So you have one full lesson to work on your Crit A, but you have about 10, 12 days of real world time to get that draft version done. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, then I'll present Crit B and you'll have a class and a half to work on Crit B. And then we'll linger on C and D for probably 2 weeks. Okay? Questions? Okay, I'll stop recording. That was wonderful. I think I'm very good on camera. Very wonderful. End meeting. This I'll do with your parents tomorrow when the Zoom meeting's called back. Hello. I'm in geography.